Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Realist Podcast, a podcast about our real list. I'm your host, Ellis.
And I'm your host, Gloria.
And today we have a selection from...
me. So originally what happened here is, well, let me just tell you what
This is selection number 4.
This is Edward Scissorhands. I know in the last episode I said it was either going to be Coneheads or Black Beauty, but I couldn't find them anywhere on any streaming service, and I wasn't paying money for just to watch the movie. So we watched Edward Scissorhands because it's on Disney Plus, and this movie was directed by my favorite director of all time, Tim Burton. Screenplay done by Carolyn Thompson. The story was by Tim Burton and Caroline Thompson, starring Johnny Depp, Winona Ryder, Diane West, Anthony Michael Hall, Kathy Baker, Vince Price, and Alan Arkin.
It was Vincent Price's last role, too.
Was it really?
Yeah, that's what it said in the article here.
When did this movie come out? This movie came
1990.
out... Oh, wow.
Yeah.
3
I'm going to be
years.
honest, and I'll get this out of the way because, I deserve all the ridicule I get for it.
What?
This is a movie that I had never seen.
Yeah.
The only thing I really knew about it was the title. And I'd seen some jokes about it, and I'd seen, I knew there were a couple of parodies and whatever. I didn't know it was a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
And thus, with just the name Edward Scissorhands, in short, I thought this was a slasher fic. I thought we were going to watch another slasher. And
What is this movie rated?
Probably like PG-13. I can't imagine it's, okay, that movie poster is way too small to read.
Does it say rated?
I bet you it's just like PG-13. I mean, there's not even any swearing in the movie.
There's no swears. There's no actual nudity either.
Yeah.
So I think this movie is either PG. I don't know.
I assume it's.
But
gotta be
I just want to talk about something really quick. I hate how his first name is lowercase, and then Scissorhands, and then Scissorhands is all capital. I'm just like, why? Why is that a thing?
See, you're making a point about the poster, which I don't even know if the video is going to have that poster as a background. So you may be ranting about nothing to the audience.
But if they look up the Wikipedia article for this movie, they will see this poster.
Well, why would they need the Wikipedia article? That's what we're here for.
But I'm just saying, if we don't give them enough information that they need, they can come to the Wikipedia article and look at this movie.
No. Guys, don't ever take any information about movies except from us. We are the foremost experts.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Hey, remember None Pizza Left Beef? Anyway, this movie was not at all...
What did you think of this movie?
Okay. Once I realized it was a Tim Burton film, I was like...
When did you realize it was a Tim Burton film without it telling you that it was a Tim Burton film?
Well, it told me that immediately, so I didn't have time to figure it out on my own. I was just like, oh, it's a Tim Burton film, okay. Now, I need to, reframe my expectations completely here.
Yeah.
Because I was ready for, a
slasher film?
Yeah, I was ready for Freddy vs. Jason again. We didn't make an episode. Was that before the podcast?
No, it was before the podcast.
Yeah, we didn't make an episode on that. That would have been a fun one, but
We'd
anyway.
have to probably rewatch it.
I was just I'm not sure I'm mentally prepared to rewatch it. Not because it was bad, just because it's that far out of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
That, again, I had to get in the right frame of mind to watch what I thought was going to be that. And then it's oh, it's a Tim Burton film. Okay. Let me just think about what I know about Tim Burton and think of, his movies and stuff like that. Okay.
This movie came out 3 years before The Nightmare Before Christmas did, because Nightmare Before Christmas came out in 93.
Okay. And it's okay. So it's going to be, a love story. It's going to be, whatever. And I wasn't really sure where the love story was going to come from. I mean, it's obvious once the daughter is introduced as a character, you see her picture, whatever. But, my first impressions going into this was, okay, this is a very cute film. The neighborhood's adorable, whatever.
Neighborhood looks like something
Avon
that
Calling.
You would see. Neighborhood looks like something you would see at one of the model railroad shows. Just one of the fake neighborhoods.
I kept calling it Whoville. Not by accident, but just because that's what it made me think of. And really...
what did you think of all the different colored houses and everybody just being in everybody's business? And
well, I thought this was the planet of women. my first thought was, for the first like 20 minutes of the movie,
It's all women.
Yeah,
It's
the
all...
only guys we see are Edward Scissorhands and his creator and the plumber. And I'm like, so is this like a female, all-female community? You see the plumber and Joyce, who is ravenously horny about the plumber. Yeah, and I'm like, is this an all-female community? And like everyone's going to be going gaga for Scissorhands because he's the only game in town, like without breaking your own sink?
I don't know. Joyce is a little bit of a hoe.
A little bit.
No, not a little bit. She's a straight hoe.
Also, I like how the Wikipedia article says she tried to seduce him. That's a word for it. That's a word for trying to rape Edward Scissorhands.
She sexually assaulted this poor man.
Yeah. This poor almost mute man.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it was a very cute movie. I can't, I'm not going to be mean to it. It's not bad. It's a Tim Burton movie. It's great.
Fuck Kim's boyfriend. And I looked up who played him. I think it's Anthony Michael Hall. It was the guy.
Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall is him.
He played in The Breakfast Club as the nerd.
Which is a weird, like...
And then he played in 16 Candles as the girl's best friend.
Okay.
I don't know if
I haven't seen 16 Candles.
Have you seen The Breakfast Club?
I haven't, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
Is that on the list?
It should
might be on the list.
If it's not,
oh, there was something I wanted to add to the list earlier, and I forgot it.
No.
I'm actually kind of upset now because there was something I was like, oh, I gotta watch that with Gloria. I wish I remembered what it was.
Yeah, but he's a complete and total douchebag who just wants nothing but anything for himself, a narcissist.
Yeah.
And he convinces I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I like how his friend starts to come around on him, too. His friend is like, wow, maybe she was right about you.
Yeah. Maybe if you stop being such a dick, people would be nice to you, but he's dead anyway, so.
Yeah. Which I actually was kind of surprised this movie had the balls to kill anyone by the end.
Oh, yeah, you were surprised that they had the balls to kill somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, blown away by it because this isn't a kid's movie.
No, it's obviously not a kid's. Audrey watched this movie the other day, actually.
Well, I mean,
on FaceTime it tells you when if somebody wants to like screen share with you, and it popped up and it was just playing and it said Audrey wants to autoplay Edward Scissorhands with you, and I was like, are you watching Edward Scissorhands? She was like, no. And I was like, I can see it on my screen that it says that you want me to watch it with you. And she was like, well, I'm almost done with it anyways, so I mean, I was like, okay, go ahead, watch the movie. I don't care.
Audrey's an enigma.
I love her so much. But enough about her. Let's talk about the movie.
Yeah, but it's not a kids movie, but it's not for kids.
Exactly, because there's
some adult stuff in it, but it's not
too
bad
racy
stuff. Yeah, it's not. Well, yeah.
I mean,
it's not too racy except for one scene, which kind of par for the course. And
I was anticipating that scene of the movie where they go to the salon and she takes Edward in the back and then she's like, "Oh, let me model some smocks for you, bitch, please."
But this was a great journey, and I'm kind of glad that, sort of like last week, we get an ending that isn't really a happy ending. Edward is, alone in his castle again, and
yeah, but I mean, I know he doesn't enjoy it, but I mean, at least
he's safe.
At least he's safe, and he knows that nobody will go after him, because in the opening scene, you see an elderly version of Kim, and she's sending her grandchild off the bed, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not tired. Tell me a story." And she was like, "Well,
why does it snow?"
Why does it snow? And so she continues to tell the story. She sits in the chair and tells her granddaughter the story of how it snowed and Edward Scissorhands and
yeah, he's so like prolific at carving up ice sculptures during the winter
trees.
That he's Well, no, I mean just specifically the ice sculptures.
You even asked the question. You were like, "Where does he get this ice from?"
Yeah, well, I see, and there are so many things that I could pick apart about this movie, but I don't want to. I don't want to pick apart this movie. It's best if left untouched. It's a sort of. I don't want to put it on a pedestal it doesn't belong on, but it's like a good and pure piece of cinema that, you know, on the one hand is very good and very true to itself, but also doesn't take itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm. When I first saw this movie, it was many years ago. I was like 8 years old when I saw this movie. And for the first time, I was like, oh, wow. This is like my kind of genre of movie. So I've always stuck to watching Tim Burton films, and he's never disappointed. So this movie is like...
This is what got you in.
Yeah, this is what got me in. This will always be my in to Tim Burton, or, well, The Nightmare Before Christmas and this movie, but...
Oh, I was going to ask, is this the first Tim Burton movie that you saw as a kid?
No, Nightmare Before Christmas was my actual step into Tim Burton films. So,
I mean, if we have the time that I can do a corollary, my favorite director is Wes Anderson. And my first Wes Anderson film was The Life Aquatic, which is kind of a divisive film. You either really like it or you don't get it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get it. And I still haven't seen it since then. I was probably too young to see it, but even on top of that, I don't know, it's sort of it's a comedy, but the comedy doesn't come from actual comedic moments. It comes from like a, how did we get here sort of comedy, you know? It's more just like weird funny than haha funny.
I was just reading here, and it says that the elderly Kim says that she finishes telling her granddaughter she said she never saw Edward again. Mm-hmm. So that Edward will remember her in her youth. So, because, like, you know, he doesn't age because he's...
Presumably
he doesn't age because he's a humanoid.
He's like...
Half robot, half human.
We don't really know.
We don't really know because the hands that his inventor gave to him before he suddenly died of a heart attack were made of wax.
Well, and we go back to, this movie doesn't take itself super seriously. There's no, like, this is how Edward was designed. It's like, no, the guy had, like, a cookie factory, and he wanted a son, so he built a robot. You know, he built, like, a human robot thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not established how, it's not established what went into it, it's not even established, like, where the cookies went. You know, it's not even like, the old man on the hill that used to make cookies.
There's a lot of plot holes in this movie.
Well,
not even plot holes, it's just like nothing, a lot of stuff doesn't get answered. Like a lot of questions that you might have during the movie will not get answered because they don't really have any they really don't have any answers to give you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, it just has some cartoon logic. And that's not really a problem, and that's kind of something Tim Burton does sometimes.
Because I kind of like how, you know, you have the whole this whole, like, nice neighborhood area of all these colorful houses with people with different personalities and all these colorful cars, and then you look up and there's this giant mansion, this giant gothic mansion just sitting on the hill, and it's like looming darkness and everything, and it's just like, I would live in this neighborhood.
Yeah. It's some fun juxtaposition. It's sort of playing with the sets and playing with the environment.
Did you notice that when all the husbands left in the morning, all their cars were like different colors?
Yeah, well, there are no two houses and cars that are the same, and yet everyone is kind of the same. You know, it's supposed to be a kind of perfection, I suppose.
Did they ever...
You know...
Did they ever say where this movie takes place?
I don't think it takes place anywhere in particular.
No?
I mean, the sort of subdivision and look screams to me like, you know, Utah area, because that's sort of the vibe I'm getting. You know, just out west. This
movie was a $20 million budget and only made $86 million in the box office.
I mean, that's still a 4 times return on your investment.
And Danny Elfman doing the music.
Yep. This was like a pet project for him, too. For
Tim Burton?
For Tim Burton, yeah. Because this was immediately after he did Batman.
And so
Batman. He was just, you know, he was sort of given a blank check of, like, you can do what you want now. You're like an A-list director. And... he was sort of like, you know, they sort of gave him some options. They were like, oh, you can do whatever the next one was. whatever the next movies were. One of them was going to be, Batman Returns or Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, which I suppose was a never realized sequel to Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian.
Yeah.
What?
And so instead, he just decided to go do Edward Scissorhands instead. Which some great like commentary in here about the development, because it just goes to show that Burton and his crew are such a sort of interesting bunch, and the thought that went into the development of the character of Edward Scissorhands, as well as just sort of everything else. But I think they did a decent job here. I mean, I think I like the movie. It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
What I was trying to seg into is that the way the plot works is pretty darn good, because as we were going through this movie, I was sitting there thinking, like, okay, how are they going to introduce some conflict? You'd think the religious lady is going to have more of a, more of a presence and drive more of the conflict. When she walked up, in the back of my mind, I went, oh, good, we have an antagonist now. Because, everyone else sort of is like, Edward is just fine, especially, what was her name? Joyce? Right? Or not Joyce. Who's
Peg. The mom?
Peg, yeah.
Peg.
Sort of just, like, adopts him overnight, and
yeah, she was like, you're gonna come
like,
stay with me, and we're gonna take care of you. I love that.
And,
I love that she was just so willing to bring a strange man into her house. I also want to bring up the fact that I was reading about this casting, and it says that Winona Ryder got this role in the bag. She got this role and was attached to the script, and it says that they were wanting to use Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was going to make a joke about that, and then it was real. I was going to make a joke to you. Hey, because what was the last movie that we watched that was like, oh, and they almost gave the lead to Tom Cruise?
Was it a Flight?
I don't think it was Flight.
No, it was one of my movies.
Yeah,
right?
It was one of your movies, maybe like two episodes ago. And they had originally wanted to give the leading role to Tom Cruise, and I was going to make a joke about them doing that in this movie, but that actually happened. I was going to be like, oh, they almost gave the lead to Tom Cruise, and you'd be like, oh, really? And I'd say no, but it's right there.
If you're new, for those of you who don't know, I despise Tom Cruise with a passion. Actually hate this man.
Fox was insisting on having Burton meet with Tom Cruise. He certainly wasn't my ideal, but I talked to him. He was interesting, but I think it worked out for the best. Cruise asked for a happier ending.
It's Tim Burton. You're not going to get a happier ending. I'm sorry.
I mean, Tim Burton's films aren't necessarily...
They're not necessarily gloom and doom, but the ending is perfect the way it is. And if they made it a happier ending, it probably wouldn't have been such a success film. I don't think.
I don't know. I mean, the meat of the film is not at its ending.
The meat of the film is like, what do you think, in your opinion?
The meat of the film is, it's just sort of, it's obviously in his rise and fall. It doesn't matter if he got redeemed at the end in the eyes of the town or not. It's just in, like, how he's treated, how he sort of falls in with the family and with the people of the town, and then how they eventually turn on him because of a series of misunderstandings, and of course, the important thing, which I was trying to point to, which is him being duped into, picking the lock and
getting arrested and everything.
Which, I was expecting the religious lady to drive the conflict more, but she didn't. It was this whole thing, which I did not see coming at all from the beginning. At the same time, it's also interesting how little the kids affect the sort of story of the neighborhood at large, because of how different they are. And I thought that was going to have more of an effect. You have this perfect neighborhood, and then they roll up in the Mr. T van with the flames on the side.
The A-Team van.
Yeah, the A-Team van. We could have watched the A-Team.
I was just laughing at myself because I thought of the scene where Kim comes home from going on a hike with her friends. She was gone when her mom first brought home Edward, and then she comes home. She doesn't know Edward's in her bed, and so she's sitting there. She turns the light on. She takes her shirt off. She's starting to get undressed.
Woo!
And then she's looking in the mirror, and then she looks and she sees Edward just like, oh, there's a woman! And she freaks out, and she has a waterbed, which makes it even better. She's freaking popping the waterbed with his hands and everything, and then he goes out, him and the father, Edward and the father go downstairs to the basement, and he
gets sloshed.
And he gives him, I think it was whiskey, and he was like, and Edward's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's lemonade.
Yeah, that is not a gag that I expected would have a payoff at all. And then, he's offered lemonade later, and he's just like, oh, no, I don't want
He's
that.
offered lemonade, and then the father is downstairs with Edward, and the mother's like, you have to properly be introduced to him. So they go downstairs to the basement, and the father's just sitting there like this, like face in hand, drunk off his ass already. And Edward's just sitting there slumped over the bar stool, over the counter. And the mother's like, this is Edward. Edward, this is Kim. And Edward just stands up with the straw hanging out of his mouth. And he's like, his teeth are like chattering or something, or he's like grumbling. And then he falls over drunk because he's never been intoxicated in his life. That's like the best. That's like one of my favorite scenes out of this movie.
I mean, that's a pretty good scene. I think I like the payoff to the joke where he's offered lemonade the next day.
When he's offered lemonade by Joyce and he throws up on her.
Yeah.
Throws up on her shoes.
Yeah, that's again, we've come down the line through a bunch of movies that are, funny in small or large part. And this movie is not designed to be funny, but it has its moments of just abject hilarity where they have the running joke with the waterbed, which is not really a running joke. It is sort of a setup and payoff.
Yeah.
And then the lemonade, and then, just a small handful of jokes, but they land really well.
You know what? I was making a lot of commentary during the movie, and the one thing I want to mention about the podcast is when they were all lining up to get their dog's hair cut. And then Joyce is like, oh, make her hair big. And she's got this dog with, like, straight hair. The dog comes out looking like a lion.
Again, we're back to the cartoon logic. I even said, well, he's not going to be able to add hair. And then Joyce is like, there's this whole, let me set the scene for you. There's a whole line of people sitting in Peg's yard waiting for their dog's hair to get cut. And then Joyce, after her dog gets her hair cut, is like, have you ever cut human hair? Will you cut my hair? I'm like, bitch, there's a line of people waiting for their dogs to get their hair cut. What the fuck you doing? But that turns out to be great for him.
But he's not making any money off of it.
Well, he was going to if he managed to open the hair salon with,
Yeah, well.
With, walking HR complaint.
Didn't you say, oh, this is where the porno happened?
Well, didn't I say that at the very beginning with the plumber? Which, I mean, I said that as a joke, but that was the joke. Like, the joke was she's trying to seduce the plumber also.
And her husband, and
she's married.
And she's married too. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get too much of... You get enough of the characterization of the people in the neighborhood. I mean, Joyce is sort of a standout. Everyone else is sort of like, everyone else is sort of one character split into two. The sort of opinion of the neighborhood is, more or less metered across everyone at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I can't say something I usually say, which is I wish we got to spend more time with these characters, because I think we got enough of a picture of the characters in this movie to sort of get a feel for how things are going on.
And it's crazy because in the beginning of the movie, when Peg brought Edward home, all the housewives were sitting on the corner until their husbands came home.
Mm-hmm. Like gossiping about him.
Yeah.
Which, actually, I take that back. There's one person that I wish we had gotten more of in the story. Can you guess who it was?
Who?
The cop. I want to know what his angle is. I want to know what he thinks of Edward. Because he lets Edward go at the end, but he seems real concerned, for him or about him, or, he's trying to do his job. I think that he could have been a much more interesting character. I'm not upset that we didn't get as much of him, because I wouldn't want to sacrifice any of the rest of the movie, and I think the length is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to make it longer, and I really wouldn't want to make it shorter.
I feel like the amount that they put into this movie was really well put together and really displayed with the amount of time that the movie lasted. You know, I feel like they put a lot of information about the movie in there, and I feel like it was executed really well.
It's well paced. You know.
Yes, it's better than Space Jam.
I mean, that's a really, really, really low bar, but okay.
Anything is better than Space Jam.
Space Jam 2.
Space Jam 2.
But yeah, it is a very well-paced movie because the time there's no point in the movie where you're going, how much longer is this? You know? You don't get the chance to stop and think about it, but it's not because they're rushing you through everything, but because there's always something unfolding. And the sort of, there's not like a B story or anything, but the A story of, well, I mean, I suppose the B story is Edward's creation. We'd come back to that 2 or 3 times during the course of the film. But the A story is more than enough to sort of keep you entertained, or keep your attention, is what I'm trying to say. So with that out of the way,
let's jump
what
into
are you
star
star
rating.
ra-
I'm giving this a 4.5.
A 4.5. Okay,
Because it's aged pretty well actually, and
I agree.
I love Tim Burton. I always will love Tim Burton. There will always be a special place in my heart for his movies and his directing style and his style of work, I should say.
Gotcha.
And I just love this movie. It was my step into my emo phase, and that's not changing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's aged well as a movie, and it's aged well in your mind.
Yes. I think if they ever remake Edward Scissorhands, they would not be able to make it right the first time.
I mean, it's tough to recapture this
It's yeah.
perfect 50s-esque setting, or 60s or 70s. It's sort of amorphous as to when and where it is, but
it's very hard to tell when this movie took place.
It doesn't really matter so much.
No.
It's, you have that 50s-ish vibe with the adults,
Avon, the Avon calling, the door-to-door makeup salesman lady, a lot of that in the 80s and 60s. And
I'm just thinking of the general vibe, all the guys go to work at the same time, all the guys work a 9 to 5, all the women stay home and mind the house. That sort of family dynamic and societal dynamic that was typical of that era, and the kids are very 70s.
Yes.
The rebellious. It's an interesting world that is set up, needless to say. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4.
Okay.
Which, because while it may not be in my wheelhouse, I'm definitely recognizant of the fact that this is a good movie.
Yeah.
I take suspend your disbelief, accept the cartoon logic that's going to exist here and there in the movie. That's not the important part. This is a character-driven film, and it's, it manages to do so much with a character that says so little.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to the quality of this film, and Tim Burton in general.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to make something.
Oh yeah, Tim Burton's a genius in my opinion. But oh wow, we still have 2 minutes.
We have a good 60 seconds, and I can pad this out because I know what we're going to be doing next.
Yeah.
Because I've been wanting to watch this next movie since it came out, and I finally found it on a streaming service that we own. We're gonna watch Whiplash.
Whiplash.
And I don't want to do too much pre-review of this movie, but I feel like I've watched every important piece of it already online.
All you need to know is that J.K. Simmons is in it. That's all you need to know.
J.K. Simmons is in it as a psychotic band director. Everything has said it's an absolutely incredible film, and I've been wanting to watch it forever and ever, and I'm sure we'll touch on that again. I also just want to say, this was a interesting performance of Johnny Depp's, this movie here.
Yes.
I didn't even recognize him at first. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, that's Johnny Depp under all that makeup and that leather. Um, you know, and he's always had these interesting roles, and I do think him and, was that him?
Yeah.
I do,
Winona.
I do think, no, I think him and Tim Burton have a great,
Oh yeah,
like,
they
thing
have they
going.
have an amazing relationship. Johnny Depp has been doing Tim Burton movies since Johnny Depp has been an actor.
Yeah. Um, he's Tim Burton's Bill Murray.
Yes.
Anyway, oh yeah, that's what I didn't get to finish my thought, which is that while Life Aquatic was my first Wes Anderson movie, the one that like got me to love Wes Anderson was Grand Budapest. So it wasn't the first one I saw, but at that point I realized, oh, this guy's for me. Like he makes interesting movies and he
Hmm.
fits my vibe. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, do all that. That's what I should have used that minute for.
Yeah.
We've got like 80 something subscribers. Keep doing that. We make this podcast every week, and sometimes there are other things on this channel too. You want to go watch a movie?
Let's go watch a movie. Bye, guys.